Hello, ladies, and welcome to this week's edition of Menopause Made Easy with Tanya. And today I am going over the book, The New Menopause. So I thought I would take some time in my podcast to go over some of the books that I've read in 2024 and how they have, inspired me, helped me teach you. And maybe you're a reader, and I love reading, so I read a lot of books. But maybe, this half hour podcast will sum up this whole book for you. And because that's what I'm going to do today. And you can save yourself hours of reading. But if you like to read, go ahead and dig in. So I am sure you have heard of Dr. Mary Claire Haver, and she admits that, with all the medical training that she's had, she had no real understanding of menopause and called women whiny women and apologizes greatly. And she has really been a massive force of, putting out information into the world about how to thrive after 35, as I like to say. All right, so it's a very comprehensive guide aimed at empowering women to navigate through menopause with confidence and clarity. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of the book on tips that will help improve your menopausal journey and increase your health span because, living longer is not necessarily the purpose, even though I want to live a long life, but I want the health with that longevity, right? So I don't want to be a 65-year-old woman who can't tie my shoes or go up and down the stairs or play with my grandchildren or garden or travel or do the things I love to do. I want to make sure that I have great health, right? And so, I've been reviewing some books and all the stuff that I teach in my midlife reboot and that you listen to on this podcast, it's all the same. So people might call it their method because they have a certain little twist on it, but the basic fundamental principles are all the same, and you're going to hear this again. So, like I said, I read a lot of books. They typically all have the same messages. They just might deliver it a little bit easier. It might be the time that you're listening to it that it actually sparks, because repetition really helps us to bring this information in and really start to ingrain it into our being. All right, so she has a science-backed approach, which is important because it's not just like willy-nilly, this is what I think. No, this is scientifically proven material to understanding menopause and addressing misconceptions and really providing some actionable steps to manage symptoms and enhance the quality of your life, which we're going to talk about today. So, she really dives into, which again, I teach in my Midlife Reboot program, but is lifestyle modifications. And I don't do medical interventions, but I work on the lifestyle side of it, really to your individual needs. All right. So as I've mentioned of times before, um, you know, hormonal change is happening. It's happening. We cannot avoid it. Our hormones are decreasing. I am post-menopausal. My blood work shows that I'm post-menopausal with my estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So if you have had a hysterectomy and you don't have a period anymore and you're kind of wondering, where am I? If you go get your hormones tested, it will tell you if you are postmenopausal, perimenopausal, or give you some indication. All right. So Dr. Haver goes into emphasizing the importance of understanding these biological shifts that occur during menopause, which we've talked a lot about in here, like our declining estrogen and the impact this declining estrogen has on our bone health, our bone density, our cardiovascular health, our metabolism, our brain health. Okay, so cardiovascular is heart health. Estrogen is on every cell in our body. We have an estrogen receptor on every single cell. We are made up of cells. That's it. All right. So we have this lack of estrogen on our cells. And as I've mentioned in many podcasts before, men and women are pretty equal in health risk. And then when women go through menopause, there's a 30% decline in our health, which makes us more susceptible to osteoporosis, osteopenia first, then osteoporosis, cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, strokes, mental cognition issues, and metabolism. So by now, it should come as no surprise that as you go through this journey after 35, you need to start paying attention to different things. That's just how it is. And you can choose to decide to start changing your habits, which I have to tell you can be, challenging at times, because by the age of like 25, 30, they're pretty ingrained in us. But it is doable. I wrote a book called Cookie Dough in the Dark. I had insane sugar cravings and emotional dependency on food for decades. And so I've done a lot of work. I still need to do work. I'm not perfect, but I definitely have been working. And then I had to, I didn't care about hormones. I wasn't interested in hormones. I didn't understand hormones. I found all the literature very confusing on hormones. And so I just didn't really pay attention. And I went through my 40s with a lot of anxiety and feelings of unhappiness and sadness and short-tempered and moody. And my lifestyle was not contributing to that. So that's when I was cleaning up my lifestyle. But now, since about 2000 and no, just a second. What year are we in? We're in 25 right now. Gosh, my late 40s, whatever years that. Oh my God. So about 2017, there we go, 2017, 2018, I really started to get more into understanding perimenopause, and it still was not talked about a lot. And so I did, a lot of research, a lot of understanding of hormones, really trying to put it into terms that I could understand. All right. And so basically what I've boiled this down to is estrogen, right? This decrease in estrogen, like I said, affects our bones, our brain, our heart, and our metabolism. Okay, so those four things, and there's probably more, but I'm going to keep this simple, really get impacted. And then when your progesterone starts to decrease, right, that is like your kind of feel-good chemical. That's like it makes you sleep. It helps with sleep. It helps to manage stress, right? And so that is why, as my progesterone was decreasing, and I didn't really understand why, I couldn't handle stress the same way. I was having, feelings of unhappiness. So she talks about these things, right? And so when you're aware about these things, and you can start to make informed decisions about your health. Like you actually, which I've talked a lot about, you become the CEO of your health, and you realize that your actions affect your health. There are consequences. You can do nothing and there's a consequence, and you can do something and there's a consequence, but you own that consequence. Now, so really understanding hormonal changes. Again, I have lots of episodes on estrogen, progesterone. I think I've talked a little bit about testosterone, which is like helps you to grow muscles. It helps you to have your sexual power within you. It helps you to be motivated. So I've definitely noticed I'm not as motivated as I was, right? So I'm definitely noticing some of these effects of these hormones leaving my body. But if you're not aware of the power of these hormones, you can be like, what's the matter with me? Which is what I think I probably felt, which I know I felt before understanding how powerful these hormones were in my body. All right. So she also goes into talking about hormone replacement therapy, HRT. Okay, so she discusses the benefits and the risks of HRT, how it can be a safe and effective option to support some of your symptoms and for long-term health, especially heart and bone protection. And from the readings I have done, your brain protection. Okay, so but she also advocates, which many people do, many doctors, that you need to come up with a plan for yourself, right? So there's an individualized approach. And so I was talking to a girlfriend of mine the other day, and she went to her doctor and said, like, I am postmenopausal and I really want to look at this hormone replacement therapy because I'm fit, I'm active, I'm a personal trainer, I've got my lifestyle dialed in, but there's a few of these things, like I am experiencing some brain fog, um, and I want the protective measures of estrogen, right? And so I said to my friend, you know what? That's exactly how I feel. I have really dialed in my lifestyle. Oh, the point was that she went to her doctor to talk about this. And, kudos to her doctor for saying this, but the doctor said, I don't know anything about hormones. Like, I don't understand menopause. I was never taught menopause at school. I don't feel comfortable talking about this. You can go and see a naturopath or somebody who is educated. So kudos to her for actually stepping up to the plate. She recommended my friend to a menopausal clinic that's run under OHIP, but basically there's like an 18-month waiting list to see somebody. So for some of you, that's not acceptable, right? And so I've mentioned this before, but I pay and to see somebody, and it's about $150 to $200, but I'm worth it. My health is worth it. So my friend ended up paying to go see somebody and get the blood work, somebody to interpret the blood work, and then she started on progesterone and estrogen. Okay, but she made an informed consent. She talked to different people, went and talked to different doctors, and she, like myself, is really looking for the protective benefits of keeping these hormones not of a 20-year-old or 30-year-old in our body, but age-appropriate hormones. So this is definitely an adventure. And if you've listened to some of my past episodes, I've opened up to the fact that I am on a low-dose estrogen patch that is prescribed by my doctor. And I just switched from the doctor prescribed progesterone, which is just generic, to a bioidentical progesterone. So that is from my nurse practitioner at this clinic in Oshawa that you can talk to over the phone. If you want information, just let me know and I will give you that information, the contact information, or you can find it yourself. So, but this is an adventure for me to see, how does this make me feel? And I'm only 2 days, so I'm taping this in January. You're going to hear this in at the end of March, April. I'm only 2 days into the new progesterone. And I have to say that I don't think the old progesterone did a lot, like the standard progesterone, because I'm still feeling like sadness. I still have some, oh my God, just gripping sadness. But anyway, so I'm exploring different avenues. But anyway, Dr. Mary Claire really talks about, like, advocates for you to have an individualized approach. That's why what works for me or what works for my friend may not work for you. But I do know that many of the lifestyle strategies that I'm going to talk about here in a second that Dr. Mary Claire Haver recommends are things that, are, I would call, you have to. Okay, so in her book, she talks about the Galveston diet, and she's from Galveston, a town called Galveston. That's how she named it. But it's an anti-inflammatory eating plan, right? And so most of us, myself included, really help people get on an anti-inflammatory plan because, as I've mentioned before, inflammation is the root of all disease. All right. And so this isn't news to anybody. Like, this is something that, with all the book reviews I've been doing, this is the same message. It's the same message I have been teaching for decades, right? And that's that we need to prioritize lean proteins to maintain muscle mass. And most women are not eating enough protein. And I'm going to put my hand up. Here it is. That is me at times. I notice that it is challenging for me to get the amount of protein that is required for my age to keep my muscles, because it's like the food that feeds your muscles. Let's just keep it that simple, right? So I gravitate towards more vegetables, more carbohydrates, even fats. So I have to work consciously to make sure that I get good protein for my body. Now, I eat meat. A lot of people recommend eating meat. You can do whatever you want. There's lots of people that say you should be vegetarian. So I say ride your own car. That doesn't sound good. Pick your choices, experiment. I've experimented over the years with being raw, being vegan, being vegetarian. I have not done a complete carnivore diet, but I have definitely delved into different things just to see how it feels on my body. There's no harm in doing that. But the basic principle of every single one of those is really to eat foods that are not packaged, not processed. All right. And that's one of her things, is to reduce these processed carbohydrates, because they really contribute to weight gain and inflammation, especially women over 35, because we just, as our estrogen and progesterone are decreasing, we don't have the same capacity to deal with these processed carbohydrates. And she also talks about including healthy fats like omega-3s for heart health and brain health. So omega-3s, your well-caught salmon, some healthy nuts. You can look it up, okay? So I've talked ad nauseum about all of this stuff, so you can go back to prior episodes. But that is the quintessential looking at your plate: lean proteins, healthy fats, lots of leafy greens, good complex carbohydrates, reducing your dependency on processed food. And if you had a emotional eating issue like I did, you're not craving lettuce and avocado. You're craving bread and chips and cookies. You are craving those things. So I've had to unwind a lot of emotion, a lot of habit. And that's just part of the game. That's part of this beautiful game of life, is just to, keep self-improving. She also recommends intermittent fasting, which is a tool for metabolic health. I have a whole fasting protocol in my midlife reboot where I teach women how to fast. I am a intentional faster. I have been for the last 2 years, and 8 years before that, not as intentional, but the last 2 years definitely way more intentional, and it has made a difference. So whatever your beliefs are, sometimes we have to move and collect new evidence to change a belief, but try it and see how it feels like for you. And you don't just try something for a week. You actually, step into it and really put yourself in a place for the next year to really work through the layer of the onions, doing some of these changes. I need a sip of water. Okay, so those are pretty standard anti-inflammatory. So whether you follow any diet that's really, tooted out there, is those are some of the basic principles. If it's a radical cut calories diet, I don't recommend that, especially for women over 35. There is a time and a place. There's a great book. Maybe I do a review on it, on metabolism. I have done many episodes on metabolism. But again, there's tools in our toolbox that help to, you need to bring them in and out and in and out. We can't just be dependent on cutting calories and exercising more. It does not work. All right. So, look at this. After diet. Okay. So we've talked about understanding the hormonal changes in your body. We've talked about, maybe talking to somebody who knows about hormones and how they can help you. We've talked about having an anti-inflammatory diet, and then ding, 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 strength training and exercise. And you know what? I don't even call it exercise. I love saying move your body, movement. Okay. Exercise has such a negative connotation for some people, but this is, if it's not part of your daily habit, you have to keep asking yourself, why are you avoiding it? Okay. And that's where I come in. This is what I help women with, is really getting over, like, even though sometimes we know we have to do something to improve our life, we still don't do it. Okay. Why? Why? That's when you need accountability, support, motivation, guidance. And that's what I do. All right, so resistance training is essential for maintaining your muscle mass. And if you have not been lifting weights at all, for building your muscle mass, it's never too late. It helps to improve your bone density and boost your metabolism. Like, so there's nothing more powerful than muscle in your body. Okay, you must get muscled. And I did an episode, I think it's one, I don't know, it's in the belly fat series at the beginning of this year, 2025, where I talk about being under muscled. Like, it's a problem. It's a massive problem in women. We tend to focus a lot on fat, but instead of focusing on fat, let's build the muscle, because that will start to help decrease the body fat in the body. All right. So again, if you are not lifting weights, ask yourself, why aren't you resistance training? Okay. And then you know all the benefits, and then you can choose to add it in or not, but you will have consequences to that action. All right. So that's just how it is. So the next thing, and you know what? I'll just talk about for exercise or movement for one more thing. In my Vibrant Living Academy, I teach 4 movement classes per week. We focus on strengthening one day. We focus on flexibility. We have like a quickie express class where we do everything. It's like a coffee break, but it's with movement and water. And we'll do an abs class. We have like a very balanced approach. So you can come in to my Vibrant Living Academy and you can see what does movement look like in your life. It doesn't have to be hard every single day. That's not where I'm getting at. It's some walking, it's some resistance training, it's some rolling, it's some fascia work, it's some stretching, it's some yoga, Pilates, but it's all of those things so that you have a balanced menopausal workout plan. All right. So that is crucial for your overall vitality and helping with your health span. Then, as many times I've talked before, again, we have the principle of sleep, right? It is so crucial to have proper sleep. And it can be, like poor sleep is a common symptom of when you're going through this menopausal journey, just due to hormonal changes, right? And so, again, if you are having problems sleeping, if that is like your number one issue, as I mentioned on my previous podcast, if you are tired, you crave more carbohydrates, those simple carbohydrates, those processed carbohydrates. If you are tired, you don't have the energy to even think about wanting to lift weights. So if this is where you need to start, this is where you need to start. All right. And so how can you create a consistent sleep schedule? Right. Again, so think about it for those of you that had children. Remember when you used to start the bedtime routine an hour before bed? Are you doing that consistently to help with your sleep? Because I notice now that if I work too late, my brain is going and I cannot shut it off, and it affects my sleep. But if I shut off my screens and I have a cup of herbal tea and I read a non-stimulating book, so I try not to read my health books at nighttime anymore. I read a novel, I have a bath, I do some essential oils, or I block, or I roll, and I bring myself into that place of having a good night's sleep, I have a better sleep. So what works for you, what doesn't work for you, can you transition more to what works for you? Other things is looking at your caffeine intake. So some people are very sensitive. So after 12, if they have caffeine, it affects their sleep. But again, you have to notice what is affecting you. What is affecting you? Okay. Can you drink caffeine at all? I'm not a huge caffeine person. All right. And I was drinking some coffee. I hadn't drank coffee until I was like 53. And then I got this really good mushroom coffee. And now I'm putting like a quarter of the package in, and I can probably say that once that's gone, I won't get any more, just because I don't necessarily, I liked the taste for a while, but I don't need that energy. But some of you may need the caffeine, and then you have to ask yourself, why do you need that caffeine energy? So again, you're exploring you. And then a huge one is electronics before bedtime, that blue light coming in. So I'm going to talk more about circadian rhythm, circadian biology, quantum biology, because I have been studying more of that. And I'm going to just really say that we are out of whack. I will do an episode coming up about that. We are out of whack. Every cell on our body has a little clock. And when you look at your phone, that brightness from your phone tells your brain that it's July at noon. All right. And so if you're looking at these electronics before bed, it is messing with your sleep hormones, because it's saying, oh, why do I need to go to bed at noon? Right. That's just one sliver of it, but it can also be stimulating to your brain activity. And so you need to take an honest look at how you are using your cell phone. And I can tell you, I have decreased the use of my cell phone. I now have blockers on my cell phone for the light. I don't look at my phone in the morning. So I have definitely improved my electronics routine. Kudos to me. So it's with a lot of effort. I tell you, these devices are very sneaky. And then you might consider taking some supplements she recommends, like melatonin. But you know what? Again, it's really like you might need that for a short term, but it's really looking at your routine. Okay, your routine. And stress. Did I make a note on stress here? Stress really can play into sleep as well, because if you're feeling stressed, you're not sleeping so great. So I've talked about that in other books or other podcasts. All right. So your hormones also affect your mental and emotional health. And I would say that I can put my hand up for this one. It has affected my mood. It's affected my cognition. It's affected my overall mental health, where I've talked about this. In my 40s, I was a wreck and I didn't understand why, but now I do, because my hormones were up and down and up and down and up and down. I was anxious. I was not happy. I was up. I was down. I was like getting the busy badge. I was addicted to adrenaline. My poor adrenals got fried. Like, there's so many things that I wish I had have known in my 30s that would have better prepared me for my 40s. All right. My mood up and down. But yeah, so this is real. This is real. So an antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication may not be the choice for you. It might be that you need to go and look at your hormones. Okay. It might be that you need to change some of your lifestyle habits. It might be that you need to lower your stress. So I have definitely changed a lot in these last 5 years as I have approached more of this this postmenopausal end of, no more periods. All right. So things to consider are like mindfulness, mindful eating, present moment awareness, some stress management techniques. Maybe that's some meditation. Maybe you need some support and some counseling. Maybe you need a good support group. And, I know in my midlife reboot, many women say that this has been just such an awesome experience for them to have this support going through this process. All right. So again, you need to become the CEO of your health and decide, what do you need? Because you can change. You don't have to be in this spiral that you're in. All right. And another point she gets into is some, the importance of staying on top of your health. So again, I was talking to my friend. Over the years, we've done a bone scan. How do our bones look? Okay. You don't just get hormones and then never change. You have to go in and, are these working for you? Do you need a lower dose? Do you need higher dose? This is why I'm still on low estrogen. I think when I'm back in May, when my next appointment is, I am going to explore bioidentical hormones for estrogen. I think that is my next step, just to see if there's a difference between the generic and the bioidentical. So again, I am playing, I am practicing, I am seeing what works for me. And so it's important to look after your health, right? And so again, have you had a bone density scan? Are you getting monitored for your health? How do you feel on a day-to-day basis? And if you feel poopy pants and you can barely get out of bed, there are things that you can do. So I just know that I am working to improve my health, my daily health, and my health span. All right. So we really want to look at those preventative measures so that we don't end up getting diabetes or Alzheimer's or osteoporosis or heart disease. And it starts today. It starts today. It doesn't start when somebody finally says you have heart disease or you have osteoporosis. It starts today, so you never hear those words. So that again, if you are wanting these things, but you just can't do them, get support. And I am here for you if you need that. All right. And that's her last point, is basically community and support. Because when you are in a community or you have somebody on your side, you learn from each other and it helps you to navigate this time better. All right, so that's basically her book in a nutshell. Again, feel free to read it. She dives into, a lot more detail, but it's nothing I haven't talked about in this podcast, but it just gives you, if you want to read it, which I encourage you to read these books, it gives you like more of a why. And so sometimes when we collect those whys and we keep collecting those whys, it keeps us, looking for improvements. All right. So basically, she is reframing menopause, because we are in menopause for a half to a third of our life. And we need to take control of our health, and you need to find a medical system, a health support team that is going to help you thrive and keep you healthy and well. You need to take ownership in this as well. Okay. So it's not just like, somebody's going to give you a pill and magic happens. You need to do some work, right? Like I've done some work, like many of my clients and friends have done some works. And there's very actionable tips, again, right? From dietary changes. I'm a huge one for looking at your emotions. Maybe you need to get started on some HRT, and all of these things are just going to help increase your energy, your vitality, your health span at this really transformative phase of our life, right? So we went through this during puberty with complete blindness. I did. And now I went part of perimenopause being completely sideswiped, not knowing what was going on, to the latter half of my perimenopause, coming into my postmenopausal journey with so much more knowledge and courage and compassion and empowerment and taking a hold of, like, I am in charge of my health. So I hope that again just inspires you. And if there is somebody who is not a reader that wants like a summary of this book, or you know somebody who would benefit from listening to this episode, please share it. We need to stick together. Women's health is failing. I see it all around me and it's breaking my heart. So please share this with somebody. They may not take action right away, but just starting to hear some of the things that they can start to change gives them some knowledge, gives them some courage, gives them some direction of how they could start to improve their life. So thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it. Big hugs to you all, and I'll see you next week.